Hey guys, it's Alyssa, the hopeless romantic redhead.
And I'm Danielle, the whodunit detective.
And welcome to Main Character Syndrome. If you feel like you are the main character in your life, you are in the right place. Okay, we are in episode or part two of our deep dive into Kingdom of Ash. We just left off with chapter 20. Maeve says she found a word collar to, or
Wordstone collar.
one of those, yeah, wordstone collars to trap Aelin in and make her submit and
Mhm.
submit to the blood oath. So,
Yep.
bad news
So
bears.
so today we'll be doing chapters 21 through chapter 40. And so if you haven't read up to chapter 40, finish reading and then come back because we will be spoiling everything from chapters 1 all the way through 40.
And
So
the
in
entire book series.
yeah, every other book beforehand. So in chapter 21, Rowan and the cadre, they get to Doranel to rescue Aelin. They set up that trap for Maeve to draw her out with the lure of a fake merchant who has a wordstone collar. So they set up camp and they see that there are hundreds of soldiers there. So Maeve's rallied her army all together and they plan to send a lead into the town to find out more information.
Yep. So, chapter 22, back with Lysandra and Adian. Lysandra is scouting ahead in bird form. She sees 50,000 troops being led by five Volg princes marching toward them. They only have 25,000. They begin fighting and they are being destroyed by the Volg. But still, Lysandra slash Aelin, she's disguised as Aelin, remember, she doesn't use her fire, and the soldiers notice this.
Yeah. So then in chapter 23, a lead is going into the town and she kind of looks just like disheveled. She's made herself look this way. She's acting and playing a part. She goes into a bar and goes up to some men and women soldiers and asks one of the pretty women soldiers if they know where Can is. And she basically acts like a woman he's potentially knocked up. And they say that they don't know, that she doesn't want to find him. And she leaves and waits a while with plans to go to another bar. But then one of those women finds her outside. Her name is Asar and says that she's a friend of her friends and that Can has gone to the Eastern camp. Asar, after talking to a lead, then realizes that Maeve has taken Aelin, and she seems concerned and then brings out her other sister soldier back to tell a lead more about where Can is and helps plot for them to get into the camp. We learn that Asar is actually Lorcan's old lover and has met Aelin before and really liked her. Ali then goes back to the men and they come up with the plan to go to the camp and rescue Aelin if she's there.
Chapter 24, back with Manon, Dorian, and the Krakens. And the 13, they're now all at an ancient camp where the seven great hearths have a fire each. Dorian is still trying to learn how to shift. Glennis gives Manon three brooms to deliver to Krakens throughout the camp. Manon knows that they must be important in some way. Carson, a Kraken watching the wyverns, reveals that Abraxos and Nareen, which is Astrid's wyvern, are mates, which is kind of a cute little tidbit. Rhiannon Kraken's crown of stars was stolen from her dying body by Baba Yellowlegs and has not been seen since. Remember, Baba Yellowlegs is that witch who Aelin killed in Crown of Midnight to save Dorian from being found out about his magic.
Yeah. And this part with the
Um,
crown is important.
yeah. And yeah, remember that. And Dorian and Manon get into a fight as he kind of talks about she cares and she argues saying like I do not, saying that she doesn't. Dorian tells her that he cares about her and she's basically like you're a fool. But she still sleeps in the same tent with him. And then she finds that Dorian's eyes are brown, so he successfully shifted them to brown.
Chapter 25, Aelin is in her box at a camp, and she is about to be beaten by Can. Fenris is there with her, and Can is about to start to burn Aelin over and over again. And as this is about to happen, she tells him to wait. And then it jumps. And we're in Rowan's point of view now, where Rowan's preparing for the rescue. And all of a sudden, a voice inside of his head tells him to go now, early before their plan. So they were supposed to go like around sunrise or something, and he's like, I have to go. Go now. And so he does.
Yep. The stakes are high, situation's dire. Chapter 26, back with Aelin, she starts to like toy with Cairn, saying that the guards talk about him and they call him spineless. Of course, this hits a nerve, and he hits her, unlocks her from the table, and is pushing her face towards this fire to basically burn her. And she then hits him and attempts to run, but he grabs her. Then we get to Fenris's point of view. He's watching this all unfold. He is trying his hardest to fight against the blood oath and refusing to obey it to help Aelin. Lo and behold, Fenris then attacks Cairn, severing the blood oath completely. But remember what happens with the blood oath if it is severed, usually the Fae dies.
Yes. So Fenris breaks the blood oath, is fighting Can, and this was supposed to kill him. So he's like, I'm gonna give it all I've got. Like, I'm going to die anyways. I don't care about dying. And so he's just beating the crap out of Can. Aelin then grabs the fire poker and breaks her leg chains. And then Fenris tells her to run, and she hesitates. But eventually, she does. She knows what's about to happen to him, that there's nothing she can do. So she runs out of the tent, and Rowan is going on a killing spree through the camp, just killing anyone that gets in his way as he's running towards this tent to find Aelin. So she's running out of it. He's running towards it. We'll see if they find each other.
hmm Chapter 28, Aelin escapes. She starts fighting soldiers, and unfortunately, she is heading in the opposite direction of Rowan. But Lorcan sees Aelin instead. 10 soldiers are surrounding her, but she kills them all and she runs for Lorcan. Rowan then finds them, and Aelin then pleads for Rowan to save Fenris, so Rowan and Gabriel head back into the camp for Fenris. This is an interesting thing to point out too. Lorcan is the one that betrayed Aelin,
Mm-hmm.
but in the end, she ends up running to him for safety.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's the one that greets her. So that was interesting. And like the way that Rowan found them and like was like I think Lorcan like sent out like a signal
Yeah,
for
he's like,
him like
she's here.
she's here. Yeah. So chapter 29, Rowan and Gavriel then go back to the tent, and pissed is an understatement. Rowan is just livid. Fenris is there and he's unconscious, but he's not dead yet. Gavriel starts to heal him. Can is also unconscious, and Rowan ties him up and then kind of lets him wake up and tortures him. Bad.
Justice is served.
Yeah.
Karma is an understatement with that one. I mean, oof. I don't even want to know what Aelin endured.
Yeah.
Chapter 30, Elide sees Lorcan arrive back with Aelin, and Aelin is screaming for them to remove her shackles and mask, but they can't. This moment is extremely heartbreaking, especially when you're listening to the audiobook. Elizabeth Evans says, take it off so many times, and each time it just gets more and more desperate. She does such a good job,
Yeah.
but it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
She then has to teach Rowan the word marks for open in order to remove them. When the mask is removed along with the gauntlets, it seems that all of Aelin's scars are gone. It looks like Maeve erased them all when she had the healers heal her after every torture session.
So, with all of Aylin's scars being gone, it's definitely, this is chapter 31 now. It's definitely sad because to her, like her scars weren't a bad thing. She embraced every single scar and they were memories to her, they were promises to herself. And so, this is kind of heartbreaking in a sense. Like, and they've just kind of removed this part of her. And it also removes her from like reality, so she's like, is this real? Like, my
Hmm.
scars aren't here. Like, is this really happening? Like, Maeve's been messing with her head for so long, she can't tell if this is a dream or reality. And so, right there in front of her, Fenris is dying, and Aelin doesn't say a word, but all of a sudden she's covered in her flames. And she goes over to Fenris and she takes his claw, cuts her arm, and he drinks her blood, taking the blood oath to save his life. And her first order to him is to live. So this was the way that she could save Fenris, who was kind of like her savior, and her bright spot in her being tortured for so long. So this was
Hmm.
just a really sweet moment of like friendship, and really friendship turning into family. And so they need to leave and aren't exactly sure where to go. But then all of a sudden, the little folk appear and tell them to come with them and follow them. And the little folk took them into their home, which is a big deal. And it is in a cave because the little folk have been hiding for a long
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, they have like a soft spot for Aelin. Chapter 32, this one's a short chapter as well. Dorian is still learning how to shift. It took him 3 days to change his eye color back to normal. Eventually, he shifts to green eyes and blonde hair when he was asked who he wants to be. We don't necessarily hear him say who he wants to be, he still doesn't know, but we see blonde hair and green eyes, which makes me think Adian or like even Aelin in a way. I'm not entirely sure. But then we go to Ashton and Manon, who are talking about the future of the Waste with the Krakens. They're basically like, what will you do? And then Etta and Briar say they come up and they say that the rendezvous point smells like death.
Chapter 33, a band of Eelway soldiers and Kraken were killed by Morath at this point. So Manon and the 13 and the Kraken go to this site and they see all of these dead people. So the Kraken then blame Manon, and they're like, you trained these witches to kill and to kill like this. And so they're blaming all of these deaths on her. And then to try to repent, the 13 band together and they go to bury the dead. Some other witches start to try and help, and she's like, no, don't help. This is us. This is for us to do. They send word to the Eelway king and queen, who say Eelway is not broken and that they will hold the south there. Dorian then sneaks away to summon Gavin, but instead of Gavin being summoned, Caltaine arrives. He then apologizes to her for everything that she's been through and thanks her for her sacrifice. And he asks if he is ready now to go to Morath. And she tells him to stick to the keep and to go and get out of there quickly, or he will have a collar around him again. She's then gone, and Dorian shifts into a raven and back. And then all of a sudden, Manon is there, and she was there the whole time and saw everything and now knows Dorian's plan to go to Morath and knows that he can shift.
Yeah, this was a plot twist to see Caltaine.
Mm-hmm. I think
Interesting
I
to
was,
see if
yeah,
she
I think
has
I,
anything else to do with the rest of the book.
ooh, okay.
I don't know. I don't remember. Like, this is me
This
legit
seems,
questioning.
this seems like closure to me almost. Like, to me, that seemed like closure in for
Mhm.
Caltaine's character, but who knows?
All right, chapter 34. Adian and their armies are still fighting Mora's forces. Has been 3 days of fighting. Men have started to ask why Aelin doesn't use her fire, because she's supposed to be the fire-breathing bitch queen, and she's not breathing fire. Adian says they can retreat northward to Peranth across the river and pick off Morath's forces as they follow. Lysandra then finds Adian, shifts back to human form, and she's naked, of course. They fight again, of course. Adian tells her that she and Aylin's plan was bullshit and that she can't pretend to be Aylin when their armies are relying on her firepower to save them. Adian blames her, saying she agreed to let Aylin go to her death and told no one. He then tells her she has ruined everything and throws her out of his tent and into the snow naked. What a nice guy.
Yeah, this will bite him in the butt.
I don't think he could come back from this.
No, I don't think so either. So then in chapter 35, Aelin, like I mentioned, she's still not certain she's in reality or not. She then smells Can on Rowan and he tells her that he's dead and that he killed him. Aylin's magic keeps wanting to come out, so she gets inside this freezing cold lake inside the cave that they're in with the little folk. And she speaks to Rowan and tells him that Maeve's altered her reality, so she doesn't know what's true and what's not. And Rowan's like, I counted every second you were gone. And they talk about everything kind of for a while and just reconnect. Then all of a sudden, a boat is in the lake and heading their way, being dragged by two eels. It's there for them, and it's there to take them to the sea through the cave. And they know that it's okay because the little folk have been kind of talking to Aelin, and they told her. Then Aelin bows to the little people, and they gifted her a crown, and it is the crown of Mab. Mab is Aelin's great great grandmother, and Aelin is their queen too.
hmm Chapter 36. Elide is wondering about all Aelin endured as the little folk light the way for the boat. She knows what Lorcan did was for her, but Aelin had to endure the consequences of his actions, so she's still pretty bitter with him. Then we get into Aylin's monologue. She's kind of mulling over the fact that the collar wasn't real and what she was about to do because of it. But even if the collar wasn't real, Maeve's army is. She's going through many thoughts and feelings, wondering if she could let Dorian pay the price to forge the lock instead of her. And she won't touch her magic until she's ready. Her spirit is quite broken at this point.
Yes, and I should mention that she was talking to Rowan in chapter 35 and basically told him, like, when I was like egging Can on in the tent, I was trying to get him to kill me.
hmm
Like I was trying to die. I wanted to die. And I had lost all hope and I was done. So,
Yeah. Same as her time in Endovir, where she made that last run for it, where she didn't expect to live. She didn't expect to live through this either.
yeah. So they really did save her just in time. So in chapter 37, they enter Barrow White territory. This comes up in earlier books when Rowan is training Aelin. And these aren't really great people, but they can be taken care of easily with Fey magic. So they pass an alcove and Aelin like yells at them to stop and she stops and all of a sudden she jumps out of the boat in the cave onto shore and Rowan goes with her and so does Gabrielle, I believe. And she goes through some passages and finds a tomb with gold and the Barrows love gold and they're protecting it. And there's a barrow there that Rowan just easily, quickly gets rid of. So it's not really that big of a deal. And then Aelin starts taking gold and says, like, we need money. I can tell your pockets are pretty empty. Then all of a sudden, a man appears. And this man is Fenris in his Fey form for the first time in a long time. So since they rescued him, since he took the blood oath, he has not turned back into a human. Because it's just been too much for him and he's really struggling with just everything and the loss of his brother, what's happened to him, what's happened to Aelin. So he appears as a man again, which is a big deal. And he and Aelin then hug. And Rowan goes over and calls him brother and tells him that that Maeve had his brother stab himself in the heart. Like, hey, this is why I messed up. And then Gabriel replies to that and says that that debt will be paid, meaning they're going to kill Maeve. Aelin has then been searching for rings in this gold, and she found two rings, one for her and one for Rowan. And it's like, I'm not sure if this is what Fae do, but this is what humans do. We wear wedding rings, and they vow saying to whatever end to each other. Elite and Lorcan, while all of this are happening, are in the boat and they're arguing, and she still resents him for crawling back to Maeve.
Yeah, shocking. Not really.
Yeah.
Chapter 38. Not a whole lot happens in this chapter either. Elide then reminds Lorcan once again, everything is his fault. Fenris promises he'll get him back for it. And Aelin is in despair, kind of looks up at the cave ceiling and sees a bunch of glowworms that look like stars. These somehow ignite some fight in our girl again, since she was told by Elena that she could rattle the stars. I was a little bit confused that this was her fight song. So, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. But I mean, I guess maybe it's because she'd been locked up for so long that she was like, this looks like a sky. What a
Yeah.
nice thing.
You could rattle the stars or the glowworms.
Yeah. So chapter 39, the Morath army arrives to Aniel. Kael, Nezra, and Irene and everyone are preparing. Irene can't keep food down, and I wrote, I think she's pregnant. And then Kael, we learn that Kael's mom and brother have fled, and Kael's dad then tells him, yo, your wife is pregnant. I can tell. It's
Mhm.
obvious. And so, yeah, that confirms it.
It was so obvious from the beginning. It
Yeah.
wasn't even really much of a plot twist.
No.
Chapter 40, Manon wants to go to the Ferrying Gap to the host under Petra's control and will ask them to join her. Manon sees Dorian talking to Kaltain and fights with him about his plan to go back to Morath. She tells him to prove himself first, shift and sneak into the Ferrying Gap and tell them who is there. Dorian agrees. And that's where we leave off on part 2.
Things are getting interesting.
Things are getting very interesting. I feel like we have a few battles coming up here shortly,
Mhm.
so it'll be interesting. We had a lot of heartbreaking moments in this one, but we did have our sweet reunion with Aelin and Rowan. But we have a very sad panda, Aelin and Fenris, and I really hope that they get their time to heal.
The PTSD is strong,
Yeah.
rightfully so. So,
Talk about trauma bonding. That is that to a T.
yeah. So, we'll
But
get
yeah,
into that. And yeah, a lot more battles and action to come in this next episode that we'll be
yeah.
doing next week.
But for now, to the readers who listen, we'll see you later.
Bye, everyone.